The Bennington Show airs on Raw Dog from 9 to noon. Everyone knows Ron, and watching you do Unmasked yesterday with Bill Burr was fascinating. Seeing you live, and you're one of these guys, and it's a privilege. Thank you.
You are the worst person I've ever met in my life. You crossed the line with me, and I met Hitler. I met Stalin. I know Mussolini, and you are the worst. You're shit. Hey, don't take that the wrong way, but you're shit on my shoe right now.
Am I better than Trump at least?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always, to me, this is the weirdest thing about doing radio. And I've done a million interviews too. And no one likes the ones except for the ones that went bad. You know, when something awful happens, then the whole world was like, that was great.
Is there an example of that with you?
Well, Don Johnson, years ago, was drunk on the show when we got into an argument, right? And he literally checked into some place after the show. Like, he wasn't...
Wow.
Yeah, it was like so bad that his people just... It was like a phoner, and then they just drove him off to someplace.
So you did a service.
Yes,
you did a good service.
Yes, I'm doing God's work.
That's what's called doing service. Exactly.
I helped him bottom out. And
you were his bottom.
It was actually, kind of embarrassing. And yet, like, People magazine put it up. Geraldo wanted us on the show. It just went crazy. And I'm like, all the good stuff that you do, no one cares about, Like that Burr thing couldn't get picked. He was brilliant last night.
Brilliant.
But if he would have yelled, shut up, and threw the chair at me and ran out, everybody would have picked it up and said, this is amazing.
Does that piss you off, that it's that way? No?
I know the kind of world that we live in, dude. I know... Like, if you look at the guys that do that kind of show, you wouldn't want them compared to your show.
No.
You wouldn't want their life. You'd want your life where you get to chill, talk to people, have fun, have laughs, and you're not sitting around going, what's the next thing I can do?
And the funny thing is, and thanks for sort of bringing it back to me, but it's way smaller than what you're doing. But the hope is always obviously to grow it. And I came from a place like that, where it was much more mean-spirited in tone, and it was much more negative. And unfortunately, and I hate it, I evolved. I came from a good background. I have a moral compass.
Right.
And to me, it's like, I don't know if that's going to translate well in entertainment, but I have to be inspirational and promotional and positive. If I'm not that way, if we're not making a difference to those younger ones listening to us, we're screwed.
Right, that's true.
I was going to ask you about that because I had heard that you had come from like a so-called mean-spirited background and that you changed the whole energy. And one of the beautiful parts about the Bennington show is that it's not a mean-spirited show at all. It's a gracious kind of welcoming show that people feel good about coming on. Have you noticed the difference since you changed in the caliber of the guests that you get and how the show flows and all?
1,000%. Not only and how we met, let alone Jay Brody, who's the funniest guy in Canadian radio. And I wish there was more time for you, but obviously just chimes in. We get to do the bits when there's not a ton of interviews or stuff. But the way we met and our positivity, and I'm married, I'm having a kid, all of it, like away from my personal life too.
Congratulations!
And thank you. And it's I know you're all about love, Jeffrey, and I know that you're all about love. Does it make a difference? Is there different level of appreciation for humankind that can then come back in good karma ways for us?
I think so completely. That's all I want to do is put positive energy out to the universe, and I try to do that. I don't write anything negative about people. If I don't like what you did, I just don't write about you. I don't want to put that down because, first of all, I respect everybody that performs or gets out on any kind of stage because it's the hardest thing in the world to do. So I respect it. But if you're mean-spirited or you're saying shit about people, I'm just not going to write about it. So if you're not
Jeffrey,
in there...
if you like people so much, why are you wearing hand sanitizer on your belt?
Yeah.
There's something...
I didn't say I trust them. I like them. I don't trust them. You kidding?
How often do you use that you have to keep it on your belt?
A lot.
Like a 38?
A lot. I hold hands with a lot of people I don't want to hold hands with.
It's like wearing a condom during the day. Like,
exactly.
Yes, that's true. You don't even know what's going on.
Are you wearing
Safe
a condom
socializing.
right now?
Yeah.
A body condom, constantly.
Bennington, you really... do people call you Bennington or Ron? I don't know how that works.
It doesn't matter either way.
Okay.
Both are my names.
Okay, I'll call you Ron. Your career has also evolved a lot. Like, you were more shock jock.
Yeah. I was a shock jock when I started because that was, where the money was at the time. But once that I came into satellite, honestly, was like the right time for me. Because I've talked to so many songwriters. I do a lot of stuff that's outside of comedy. And I've met the most creative people on the world, and it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing, some of the stuff that people have been able to do, and that we just kind of throw away as, whether it's stand-up comedy or popular music, whatever it happens to be. I mean, to me, in real creativity, and I'm going to follow Jeffrey on this and get weird for a second, that's the spiritual place that we can find. And you felt it before the concert. You know that there was some concert that you went to that you kind of had that experience of it being tribal, and you're connected to the people and you're connected to the music. And then,
and not just because of the drugs.
But no. I mean, sometimes, look, I think that we all did drugs to get that feeling.
To get that feeling, for sure, yeah.
To get that feeling.
To feel that connection.
But for some reason, we would rather, get into gossip and stuff like that, rather than the fact of, hey, isn't it weird how sometimes when you're in nature, it feels unbelievably connected? No one says that, No, but we can talk about the Kardashians for, hours at a time.
It was like when Honey Boo Boo was on TLC. That's the Learning Channel.
Right, yeah.
Come on.
That thing should be like the Learning How Not to Be channel.
They wouldn't be able to do the acronym. That's the problem.
The thing is, in my lifetime, the Great White Slide, the way white people have just let themselves be like, we're all rednecks. Like when I was a kid, that was like one of the worst things that you could call a Southern person a redneck. And they would say like, oh, my cousin, he's a redneck. But now it doesn't, they don't care how much money.
They own
I'm
it.
a redneck.
Right.
Hey.
They own it proudly.
Yeah, they
Sure.
love it.
Proud to be
Look
a
at the Duck Dynasty guys. He
Yeah.
made millions of dollars making duck calls, and then started making political statements, which people were taking seriously. Why are you taking seriously the guy who makes duck calls? His job is to call ducks. Don't listen to anything he has to say.
Dude, how big is that market that he became a
billionaire?
I never met anyone in my life who owns a duck call.
I know. Right, exactly.
And he's, I could see if he was making hubcaps or something. I've seen
Yeah,
around
that people
before.
use, right.
But the amount of duck calls that this guy must have sold, and like he's making duck calls, like, I just hate gay people. I hate them. He's making duck. Gay people. Terrible what they do.
Did you make a gay people call?
Yeah.
And they started that whole beard thing. That is totally out of hand. There's guys here that look like they came out of the woods.
They were the first bearded people?
Those lumber sexual look, is that what they call it? Oh, God, that's embarrassing.
Straight out of Brooklyn.
Hey,
Crazy, right?
Ron, a lot has changed with SiriusXM over the last couple of years. I mean, a ton. You think of Opie and Anthony, and now Opie and Jim, obviously. No one really knows what Stern's up to between you and Fez. Fez retiring. How are we as a company? Are we? I mean, what your ears to the ground is. It's much more than mine being over in the Canadian wing.
You're worried? Is that it? You're worried this whole thing's going to just a house of cards?
Not
It's all
not
gonna
at
fall
28
down?
million subscribers, but I mean just sort of where we're headed. I mean it's I love it. I mean this platform being able to, we get calls from Toronto, from Texas, and that to me is the coolest thing on the planet.
Absolutely, man.
And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I don't think I could ever go back to terrestrial radio unless obviously they threw a ton of money at me.
Sure.
But I mean, do you see yourself being here for a very long time?
That's the thing, is like you can never play that game. You know what I mean? You never know at any time what's going to happen in this business. Like when I started, there wasn't even a thing of satellite radio, podcasting. There was only one way to do it. Now, I think if you can do this, you'll never, like Anthony's a great example because he was never really off the air. You know what I mean? He started his thing immediately when it was over. And he never would have been able to do that 10 years ago. Wouldn't have happened. It actually did happen to him 10 years ago when he got fired at terrestrial, and then no one heard from him for a couple of years.
You can bring your audience with you. So
Absolutely.
If you have a big enough audience, of course.
Yeah.
We were still working on that. But I mean, you must love the stability of it too. Like starting the podcast, when I know you're on Mask and you got your website, Bennington Interviews, right?
It's Ron Bennington Interviews. I do stuff with the Interrobang.com too, which is a great comedy site.
You've opened it up everywhere, but the perception, obviously, having the name behind you, to me anyway, is the most important thing.
Well, I don't, at one point I had a company and we syndicated our show around. And you never really got into this to be in the business of it. You know what I mean? You got into this to not work, to hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
So for me, if there's a corporation that wants you to do the things that you do. I'd rather do that than be sitting around going, oh, how many subscribers we got? What are the costs of this and that? That's working for a living. That's a whole different game.
Back to, Jeffrey kind of busting my balls about, maybe not prepping because you got to do a ton of prep with that TJ Miller stuff. But you must work pretty hard. I mean, I watch your Unmasked specials and, you see him and you're so good at being that conversationalist by keeping it just going, moving forward, but obviously knowing the facts about the person. So, I mean, that prep, what prep goes into your interviews?
Well, you know what? No one ever asked about this, so I thank you for asking. But most of the time I prep what not to ask them, what most people ask them. But I always think that if you ask people about their passions, about the stuff that they really care about, so if, let's say, Bill Murray was coming in here, why would you want to bring up meatballs to him again in his life? Why would you want to bring up the stuff that he's already done? Try to figure out what he's going, what he cares about right now, to me, are always the best interviews.
Especially with the big names, which you get. I mean, a lot of people know their basics. They know their simple sort of things. Right. So you just get to be that friend with them without the fire in front of you, basically.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I don't have to have a gotcha moment. I don't have to have a clip that everybody's going to say, oh, my God, I don't believe that he said that. So you give a chance for people to chill, and then you find out what they're really into. Personally, I think it's the best stuff. See, now, I don't know if everybody likes that. It's not as easy as a quick, vicious thing. But I'm doing it for me over here.
You know what happens? He creates a safe space. I watch them all. I'm there, and I see it. There's something about the energy. I use that word a lot, but it's true. He creates a safe space for people to feel comfortable, to open up. I've seen people cry. Dice Clay was moved to tears during his interview, and Ron doesn't use notes, which is so cool. It's a conversation that goes on for an hour.
Well, here's the thing, Jeffrey. I'll shake someone's hand and then I'll lick my hand afterwards.
Right.
That's how much I trust them.
That's why I use the Purell. Because the guys
think I'm going to die.
Because the guys like you. That's why I carry the Purell.
Turn down for what?
All right, back here. It's neat. There's some people in the room. We got a bit of an audience. It's because not for us.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Although maybe they'll get to know us. That's cool too. Ron Bennington is doing another Unmasked with Chris D'Elia, a friend of ours. I was hoping he might pop on early, too. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, but I said, hey, if you just want to chill out, we've had him on the show twice, hung out with him in L.A.
Great guy.
Great. And he's blown up. Are you excited for that interview?
I'm excited because he draws beautiful women and not all.
Yeah.
I look into this and I'm like, most comics that don't draw women that look like this. It doesn't happen.
D'Elia, women love him. And what's cool about it is, it's tough to be a good-looking comedian, I think.
It's almost impossible, right?
Yeah, because you're we talked about earlier, you're threatened by these people almost.
Well, the thing is what do they got to be unhappy about? Like normally a comedian comes here, oh, I've been an outsider my whole life. But no one wants to sit here and, boy, it's so tough being handsome. I don't know how that gets over.
That's why they dress down and they grow beards and they try to look more plain, because
but now
people get distracted. If you look too good on stage, they're not paying attention to what you're saying.
In the old days, nobody would wear a beard because they said it would stop the facial stuff. You know what I mean?
The facial expressions, yeah.
Yeah, so they would never wear a beard, and now everybody is.
These days, it's beards or us. It's like crazy. Everyone's they're renting beards. They can't wait to get a beard.
You know how gay that sounds, right, Jeffrey?
That they're renting beards? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm secure in my masculinity. I can say shit like that.
I wonder how much it would cost to rent a beard, though. How would you price that out?
They have reversible beards now, actually, for men who want to pack light when they go on vacation. It's crazy. But you're going to want a change of beard when you get there.
Yeah.
Reversible.
It sounds like you're doing something awfully wrong if you have to change the look of your beard pretty quickly.
Jeffrey already looks like that someone's going to be dead in his pool later. You know what I mean? He already has the look like, oh my God, I knew it. For years, I knew it.
Like Phil Spector.
Yes.
Yeah.
Phil Spector fucked Elton John is the opening line.
What is that?
If Phil Spector fucked Elton John, that's my opening line.
That would be you?
I know what you're thinking. Yeah.
Hey, Jeffrey Green's here, and Ron Bennington from, obviously, the Bennington Show, and go to @Bennington Show. Weekdays, noon, it's to 3 on SiriusXM Raw Dog 99. They replay it on SiriusXM Indy 102, 9 to noon. We got 5 minutes left. And to me, I'm kind of shaking here a little bit, but I would love to be able to sit in a seat where you do what you do so well and find out how you would do it with someone you don't know that well.
Well, here's what was to everything that you said to me is that you came from a negative place. What was a negative place with you all about?
It was wild because I was getting paid really good money to be in radio, and I didn't know I was going to be in radio. It just kind of happened for me, and I was the co-host, so it was never like it never came top down for me. I was just sort of like I took every pass I ever got, and I was a team player, and I don't care if I was thrown right in the middle to get destroyed. I made sure I got to the end zone. I didn't agree with it, but we were encouraged to be the best of the bad, and we did that well, and with it came money and fame and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know how to get out of it, really, until I kind of started just recognizing that it was when I started reading about all these suicides from people on the Facebooks and the bullying and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, we speak to 17-year-olds, and we always tell people how negative we can be towards everyone. And I didn't want to be condoning that kind of terribleness, really. I couldn't do it anymore.
How long did you do it?
For about 13 years.
It's amazing. You and I, our careers start the same way. We both fell into radio. We were in it with somebody who did it. My show blew up in Florida, and being a shock jock show. And most of those shows, I would go home from and go, I don't know why everybody thinks this is so good, because I know what, I have comedy heroes. I know the stuff that I like. I feel like we're just shooting low, but it became impossible not to shoot high because your ratings were involved in that. So did you step away, or did you? I got to be careful what I say here, truthfully. Right.
I basically spoke up to say, hey, we're 40 now, and I say we're 40 because my co-host was too at the time, or the main host, sorry, was at the time. And I just said, why don't we just try evolve a bit? And I don't know what happened after that statement, other than the fact that I was suddenly and unexpectedly gone. So was it a result of that? Who knows? Was the result of who knows what it was for? And I don't think I've ever told the story on air, but I do remember saying to management that I was never challenging for our hierarchy, never in my life. And I still respected in a way, he did it his way, but I respected the leader. And I said, he's a great captain of the ship, but don't ever underestimate the anchor, because without that anchor, that ship will crash. 4 months later, he got canned for CRTC reasons and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting. I was right. It was justified.
Bennington just did it to you, dude.
I was just going to say,
you just got Bennington.
I'm
on your
crying.
show. Holy shit.
I'm crying.
You're just crying and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
Let it go.
He creates a safe space, and then the next thing you know, you're opening up with shit that you never told anybody before.
Unmasked is on afterwards. It's turning into unpantsed right now, though. That's great.
But I certainly identify with that as well, as probably a lot of people working out there. You work for a company that maybe you're not proud of the product, but that's the way you feed your family. You know how many people are working and stuff that they're like, well, this stuff that we're selling to kids is filled with sodium and blah, blah, blah. But you go to work every day. I don't think doing the kind of radio that you were doing is that different, right? Across the board, everybody has to say to themselves, am I doing what I really want to do? But I think we're all grown up. The way that we're raised is to make as much money as we can, and that's the only thing. That's the only thing we hold.
Hence, lead in toys, right?
Right.
But you got to be careful. For me, life has been great since the change. And if you really want me to cry here, part of it was I was dating a beautiful girl, which is something I'd never done. I just had sex with a lot of beautiful girls. And she said to me, because I was actually in love for the first time in my life at 40 years old, she said, hey, if we have to sell the penthouse and move into a 400 square foot apartment, I'm standing by you. And the second I heard those words, I knew my life was going to change around. And I may have not ever been pushed off that cliff. I may have never jumped off of it, but when I got pushed off of it, you just pick yourself back up.
Sure.
And I think that's the best part. Do you even though you've grown and you're so good at what you do and evolved and you guys are still fun, but is it hard now with comedy? Is it hard to not offend?
Well, I don't think offending is all that terrible of a thing to do. It depends on on the reasons why you're doing it. I mean, I'm a big believer that people like Bill Hicks are very important to our society as a whole. I think a lot of times when you're offended, people need to be offended at that moment. And sometimes I think we have moved over too far in the other direction. I think we put safety too high today. I think we equate being offended with something physically happen to us, you know?
Interesting, because you're going to be speaking with Dalia right after for Unmasked. You're doing it live in front of a big audience. And he's sort of managed to, and I wonder if this is part of your thinking with him, like he's managed to kind of be pretty offensive within his Instagrams and his Twitters, and he's got that balance though. And so I don't know if I always agree with it, but he's still funny, and I think the key is he makes it clear it's not a malicious thing, and it's that
Right.
that's the word, right? Like,
Well, yeah, it's always in context, but that's a tough thing when it's pulled outside of your audience. You know what I mean? It could happen to anybody at any time, as we're seeing all the time now.
one word and you're done. Career's
done.
over, and unless you have that following, then they come
Yeah.
with you and you monetize it that way. Jeffrey Green, I apologize. We have to go. We have to run at Ron Bennington.
Well, it was
Thank
great
you.
to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
man.
I'm feeling pretty blessed, so thank you. And Jay Brody, thanks for being awesome. This best poutine of our lives last night.
Great poutine, and my liver hurts.
It's been an amazing time. So thank you again for all the people here at Just for Laughs in Montreal at the Hyatt, to the SiriusXM folks back in New York, to Toronto, to right here making it all happen in Montreal. It's been fantastic. Ron, have a great interview with Chris D'Elia.
Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Same here.
And it's a Bacardi Party Friday. Have yourselves a great one. We'll be back in Toronto and more at the Beer Fest, so we can't wait to join you then. You're listening to the Todd Shapiro Show here on Canada Laughs, channel 168 on SiriusXM.
Hey, I'm Jay Brody. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment. We read the best ones on the air.